All right, so we are going to get started. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Hope you all are enjoying the conference so far. This is our second virtual conference, our 43rd conference, my sixth personal conference. So that's pretty cool as well. Have been around a while. So my name is Deja Lindsay, and I am this year's speaker chair. So all the speakers have heard from me probably a bajillion times. They're like, okay, girl, we tired of hearing from you. And that's okay, got to make it happen. So I'm super excited. I hope you guys were able to join us for some of the earlier panels and workshops that we had. And then for some of the events that we'll be having later on as well, definitely stay tuned, because this year's conference is put together very well. If I say so myself, I might be a little bit biased, but that's okay. So today's panel, I am going to just give some quick bios for everybody on the panel, and then I'm going to turn it over to these beautiful ladies. So I'll start with Angel. Angel Henry has a passion for diversity and technology. Her knowledge of why women and minorities are oftentimes missing from the C-suite provides awareness for technology leaders to drive change. Angel has over 20 years of IT experience, primarily in the pharmaceutical and healthcare industries, and over 15 years in the project management discipline. She has become a recognized thought leader on the topic of the agile mindset, which fosters an environment of innovation and productivity. Angel is also a sought-after trainer and speaker, as well as an adjunct instructor in the Indianapolis area, helping students realize their full potential in the field of IT. Dents in the Ceiling, Angel's first book, is a summary of experiences of 30 African-American women working in tech. There's Angel. Next, I'll go with Nikisha Elise Williams, is a two-time Emmy Award-winning news producer and author. Her latest novel, Beyond Bourbon Street, received the 2020 Outstanding Book Award from the National Association of Black Journalists, or NABJ. Nikisha also received the 2018 Outstanding Literacy Award for her Literary Work Award for her debut novel, For Women. The Florida Authors and Publishers Association awarded 4 women the 2018 Florida President's Award in the category of Adult Contemporary Literary Fiction. Nikisha is a Chicago native, period. She attended the Florida State University, where she graduated with the BS in Communication, Mass Media Studies, and Honors English Creative Writing. Nikisha is a full-time writer and writing coach and has freelanced for several publications, including The Washington Post, Essence, and Vox. Nikisha lives in Jacksonville, Florida with her family. And last but not least, Monica Brown. Strategic, forward-thinking leader skilled at driving strategy, guiding execution, and delivering solutions that create competitive advantage and drive operational efficiencies. In-depth experience in leading large organizations and building high-performance teams by inspiring, motivating, and collaborating to develop and deliver technology solutions. A proven record of implementing organizational change and optimizing processes in response to business needs. Impeccable ethics and integrity, extracting maximum value from project teams and all stakeholders through positive directional leadership. So with that being said, I will turn it over to these fantastic ladies and they will take it away.
All right, Deja, thank you so much. Thank you everyone for having us at the BDPA conference. Thank you, Angel and Monica, for getting us all together again. So we're talking today about corporate America through the lens of Black women. And so we got to this topic because both of you have written books, and full disclosure, your books were published through my company, Newby's Publications. Monica, your book came out last year, Only One, How to Be a Badass Boss in Corporate America. And Angel, your book came out just 2 months ago, Dents in the Ceiling, The Tools Women and Allies Need to Break Through. And what I found compelling about both of your stories is that you both wanted to kind of shed light on what it's like to be a Black woman in corporate America. So I'll start off with my first question is really, what drew you to technology and to work in this space for as long as you have in the first place? Angel, you can begin, and then Monica, go to you.
Well, I was born and bred corporate. So I got my start as a, I was a junior in high school, and I was brought into a room, and I guess I must have passed the PSA T-scores enough and had a high enough GPA, and they bought myself and probably about 20 or 30 other students in a room, all minority, female, and introduced us to En-ROADS. And En-ROADS was particularly looking for women and minorities, underrepresented populations who would be in finance or tech, and train us up, and so that we could get a job in corporate America, because they were trying to specifically grow that pipeline. So I was spending Saturday mornings while my friends were at the mall hanging out or sleeping in. I was learning how to dress and speak and interview and be in corporate America. So I was born and bred for it.
Monica?
Yes, so I'm the complete opposite. I was not born and bred for corporate. My passion as a child and in college was journalism. And I wanted to be in front of the camera, and I wanted to really be within the news realm, honestly, until I found out how much entry-level news reporters make. And the first job offer that I got as a news reporter was $14,000, actually $14,500 full salary. And as a single mom, that wasn't happening. So once I came to Atlanta, I started working with the Atlanta Olympic Broadcasting Group for the 1996 Olympic Games. And then right after that, I took a admin / junior writer role with Upscale Magazine, making a whopping $10 an hour. Yeah, so as a single mom, I decided that I needed to do something different because the struggle is real. And I decided to take my writing skills into corporate America as a tech writer. And from tech writing into project management, and then on up the ranks from there. So corporate found me. I didn't find corporate, so I wasn't trained. I had to figure out how to manage myself and my mouth and my perspective in that environment, and literally grow up within corporate America.
So when was it in your journeys that you realized that the path to success, into elevation, into promotion was different for you because you were a Black woman? Monica, go ahead first.
Ooh, you have the best questions. Oh my God. I realized that when I was sitting next to, the name I use is Brett. So if y'all hear me say Brett, y'all know what I'm talking about. So when I was sitting next to Brett, and Brett really said something that he thought was profound, but I knew was not really what it was supposed to be. And I'm like, so if Brett could do that in this room and sit here and everybody's like praising him for having this idea that's actually obvious for everybody, that is just, something that anybody could have said, then why can't I do it? But his journey, paying attention to his journey, was different than mine. And I had to be different. And the things that he got praised for, I pretty much got shunned and ostracized for. And once I realized that there was a different prescription for him versus me, I started to be very observant and figure out how to assimilate, not change, but assimilate and adopt characteristics so I could survive in corporate America. So just listening and observing the differences of how I was treated and how people like me were treated versus how the Bretts of the world were treated, made me started to open my eyes and really say, okay, I need to do something different to really get up the ranks in corporate America.
Angel?
Yeah, for me, it was a rude awakening. So I had 5 internships, thanks in part to En-ROADS, and joined a company full time here in Indianapolis. And I joined with, probably 15 other African Americans, and we were all under the impression, I know I was, that we were the cream of the crop, right? We had the best GPAs, we were the smartest. We were coming in and literally rolled out the red carpet for us. So I won't say fast tracked, but I certainly thought that my career progression was going to be an upward trajectory. So I would, fast forward 4-5 years in, and I'm still an analyst. And I'm looking at my majority counterparts who came in at the exact same time on the exact same day that I did. And they're already team leaders and managers. And I'm thinking, well, what am I doing wrong? And I sat in that space for far too long, wondering what I was doing wrong. And thank goodness for our organization's ERG, Employee Resource Group, where all the African Americans come together and have real talks about what it takes to make it in that environment. And that's where I woke up and realized, oh, this isn't about me doing anything wrong. This is about unconscious bias. This is around when I have an idea or when I open my mouth, I'm not heard. And so now I've got to course correct and figure out what I'm going to do to own my own career, realizing that the company's not going to pull me through like I thought.
What does that course correction look like? Like specifically, like what is it when you realize, you know, you're not the problem, it's them and their perception of you? What are you to, what was your thought process of saying, you know, how do I shift this so that I'm seen, so that I'm heard, so that they realize, oh, she's not just wallpaper in the background, but she's a person with thoughts and ideas who can actually lead people?
I didn't call it this back then, but it was my personal board of directors. So I had to get an advisor, a mentor, and a sponsor. And so I started with an advisor. I started with someone who, quite frankly, I didn't trust and didn't like very much, but this person was a genius at the application and the tools and technology. And so I had to buddy up to him and get to know him enough to where he would give me some of his time. And it wasn't easy, right? I mean, he made me feel like I was stupid. He made me feel like I was less than, that I wasn't going to be able to grasp the technology. But I did. I mean, I went into study mode like it was, you know, MBA time, and we're back in grad school to learn the tool and technology so that I, you know, would be seen as a smart enough, right, and have that aptitude. And then I got mentors who were outside of who looked like me, right? So I started, of course, with that ERG and the Black folks, the brown and Black folks that look like me. But then I had to venture out and get, shout out there to Dave, you know, get some mentors that could help me quite transparently speak white man.
Before I ask the next question to Monica, I just want to let everyone who's watching know that if you have any questions for our ladies and our guests today, go ahead and put them in the chat and we'll try to get to those questions at about 4:40. So we have about 15 minutes for Q&A. But I'm going to put a pin in that because I do have a follow-up, Angel. But I want to ask Monica, because you don't call it the personal board of directors, but you are very specific in your book, Only One, about what it means to have an advisor and a mentor and a sponsor, and how those aren't all the same people, and that you need to look outside of your network to find them. And you also make it a point to talk about how to network and why one should always be networking, but it shouldn't feel like that. Why is that so necessary as a double minority in corporate America?
So to kind of pull in a little bit of what Angel just said, I didn't even realize I needed that until I got into the executive suite. Literally, I was walking, I want to say blindly, but I knew that I had to do something different. So I had to figure it out. I didn't have any advisement during those stages. And it wasn't until I got into the executive suite that I realized that through meeting people that, hey, this is a need that you have. And once I figured out that that need was necessary, it became something that I then had to speak about, to your point about networking and having a sponsor versus, you know, just having somebody as a mentor and the differences. So networking is absolutely important, because if you could promote yourself, we wouldn't even be here on this call. You need somebody to help you with guidance, and you need someone that's going to give you perspective outside of the walls of the company, because they can actually say, this was me 5 years ago. This is what I did. These are the things that I think you should do. And if you do these things, here are the results that you should expect. Without that foresight, it really is maneuvering in the dark and really trying to figure out, okay, if I do this, then maybe this will happen. But having that validation and that push and that also that insight helps a lot. Networking is absolutely necessary. I live by networking. My last few jobs I've gotten by networking, and just having I don't use the word board, but just having a wealth of people that you could leverage. It's priceless. They can also usher you into a mindset that you didn't even know that you you require to be in a certain situation. So having the network, being able to network and getting that perspective outside of the walls of your immediate job, I think is required. And then really quick, the difference between a sponsor and a mentor. A mentor gives you perspective in their experience. A sponsor is the person that speaks and represents you when you're not there. And they're actually also willing to put their brand and their name on the line to be able to raise you up to a different situation or get you bumped into a job or whatever. So if you have a sponsor, you have somebody who actually trusts that their brand is going to be well represented by you. That is something that you nurture and you groom, and you don't take that for granted, because everybody doesn't do that. I'm not going to sponsor somebody that I know is going to probably just not represent my brand well. It has to be somebody that you trust, and having that trust is something you need to nurture and grow consistently.
Angel, you mentioned this when you talked about your advisor being someone you didn't know, you didn't like, and then who was also very mean to you. How did you handle that? Like, you're going to this person for help and they're belittling you? Like, that just doesn't work for me. So how did you handle that? Because I'm lost.
It was a dark time. I will be completely transparent. I came out with to my full-time job with a master's degree in information science. I had full, 5 previous internships, so it wasn't my first rodeo. But again, it was a technology that I was not, that I did not understand and was struggling to comprehend. So humbling yourself in order to get next to the person who has what you need, and they're treating you as if you're dumb, or making comments like, I remember he said, didn't we go over this last week? Didn't you get that? And so having to kind of tame my tongue and not roll the eyes and the neck and say, well, actually, I'm just seeking clarification, and managing my emotions, because all with the eye on the prize of, hey, he's the smartest guy on the team. He has what I need. I'm going to suck it up and get through this. I will be completely transparent and say, when I got home, however, I did sit on my couch and cry and have all of those thoughts that we have of, is this right for me? Did I pick the right field? Should I continue on? And it was my faith. It was my faith, going to church, prayer, my family and friends lifting me up, saying you can do this. It was an active walk of faith. And I will be transparent to say that was not the only time. I wish I could say that, oh, in the beginning of my career, I experienced that, but no, I experienced that after I had made manager and was thrust onto a new team where I was the only, as Monica wrote about. And I wrote about in my book the experience of where I heard over the phone where 2 people were laughing at me about how I needed to work harder, and they weren't giving me the information that I need to finish a deliverable, and joking, saying that, oh, she just, I'm not going to give it to her. She just needs to work harder. They wanted me to prove or work for the information instead of, helping me and being a team. So I wish I could say, unfortunately, that those types of situations no longer occur, but they still do. And now that Monica and I are executives, we still, no matter what the title, no matter how many people report to you, no matter what your purview is, you will still get individuals, peers, and others that will still look down, make comments, or make you feel less than.
So do you have moments even now where you just like, some days you go like, you know what, F it all, and just want to walk away?
I had one last year for sure. But now it's different. Now I've come through programs like ITSMF's Emerge Academy. I have that network, that varied network that is extremely supportive. I have a close board of people that I can go to and quickly, when something bad is happening, get advice and and help. So it definitely does not impact me or affect me mentally or emotionally nearly the same way that it did before.
Monica, what about you? Because you say, you came into this blind and were kind of walking alone for so much of your career, that do you feel that has helped shield you from some of those moments? Or do you have those moments as well? Because you do talk about, having the mental warfare and the mental fortitude to kind of play the game. You make the analogy often, it's chess, not checkers. So how does that experience feel for you, Monica?
It feels like motivation to me, because I don't take it as them making me feel less than. I take it as them being threatened by my greatness. So I just show up and give it to them every single day. That's what it is. I had to create that because if to Angel's point, there will be attempts to make you feel less than. I'm not accepting it. It's not allowed. It won't enter into my body, my spirit, or my soul. So whatever you're dealing with that's making you feel that way, get you some counseling and have at it and figure it out. But it's not going to affect me. It's only going to give me motivation. I mean, even in current roles and my past couple of roles, I've had, people quote their titles to me like that's really going to make me quiver and shiver in my seat. That's not going to make me do anything, because at the end of the day, we still got work to do. So if you feel like quoting your title is really going to make me jump off camera and go cry and be, the submissive person that you want me to be because you don't like me in this room, then you're really going to have a problem. I'm going to show up. I'm going to do the job that I was hired to do, because that's why I was hired and that's why I was here. So if you need to reconcile, and we all know who you is, if you need to reconcile with yourself, then do it. But it's not allowed. It doesn't bother me. I use it as motivation. When I hang up the call, I'm like, yep, I got to him. Because if that's the case, why are you quoting your title to me if I didn't get to you? Let's just get the work done and keep it moving. You know what I mean?
I love you so much. But with that said, you say you show up and you are who you are. You are your full self every day. And in your book, you have a chapter titled, hire one, get one free. So that when you show up in the spaces that you do, you know that you were hired because you were Black, or you were hired because you were a woman. And the other part of you that is also a marginalized position was brought along. You're a twofer.
Mm-hmm.
How do you, let me see the right words. Show up as a twofer, and you show up probably as the only one in those environments.
Absolutely.
Does that, how does that rattle the room or change the dynamics of the room? Because they need you there for their diversity hire,
Mm-hmm.
but then they may not also want you there as well.
Right. So I take advantage of it. I use it to my own personal advantage. They don't want me there, but they need me there. And I know that. So since you need me there, I'm going to use everything in this room to my own personal advantage as long as I can. Because the thing is here, once you understand the dynamics of who you are as a Black woman and how just your sheer presence will alter any type of room, you bask in that, you own it. You walk in, you put your hair on if that's what you got to do, and your makeup, and you go in and you represent, because I call it a representation. I'm the only one that's in the room. I'm the only one that's in this executive suite. So by default, I have a responsibility to represent my female and my Blackness very well. And I intend to do that in every opportunity and every chance I get. So again, I use it as, hey, who can I network with? Who can I figure out to connect with? Because they need me just as much as I need them. And I bring that, I bring that to the table every chance I get. So I love it. The only thing I'll say though, is that my job then becomes, how many more of us can I bring into this room? So it's not just me coming in and representing, and I'm not conscious of the fact that, I'm the only person in here, there's only a couple of us. My thought process then quickly goes to, okay, how many people can I refer into this organization that are also diverse hires that could come in here with me and also take, all of this opportunity and use it to their own advantage. So we also have a responsibility, once we get into these positions, we got to retch back. And I did say retch because I'm from the country. We got to retch back. We got to retch back, and we got to bring other people with us, because once we get the opportunity, and once we seize the opportunity to represent in these rooms, we have an obligation to figure out how many more of us we can bring to the table.
And that speaks to what is happening with Angel's book, because you both mentioned about how you notice that you're the only one in some of these rooms, in some of these situations, and even some of these experiences, it feels so isolating and alone. But what Angel did in Vincent and Henry, and talking about her own story, she also interviewed dozens of other women and found that she wasn't alone and that she wasn't the only one. So Angel, in doing that work and getting all these stories, which some of them are truly like WTF, what did that teach you about going forward in your own career and hearing from so many other women?
It revitalized my purpose. I now have tangible faces and names and stories that I remember that fuels me, right? That I'm fighting for a much bigger cause. And I wrestled with that, right? I wrestled with, like, to say, well, but Lord, not me. And I think you and I had this conversation too, where it's like, it doesn't have to be me. I can just, share my little story and keep it going. I don't do I really want to be a representative, right, for these other women's stories and get it out there? It needs to happen. It should happen. I can support it happening. But should I be the one to tell the story? And God he set it in my lap. So I had no choice. So it has been a faith walk, but I will say it is definitely, I found my purpose in the fact that it's so needed. Every woman that I talk to, people that are starting to read the book and the reviews that are coming back, I just realized the corporate trauma that we have experienced, the emotional tax that we pay is too damn high. And it can be no longer. And so I have to join the fight. I had what is it? The revolution will not be televised. I have to join in and be the leader because God has given me this responsibility.
Can I jump in, Nikisha, real quick? Because I just want to share a story. This is a Monica and Nikisha-ism. While I was writing my book, I think the first 3 or 4 chapters that I turned in, you reviewed them and we had one of our sessions. And you pretty much, for lack of a better term, went off on me and said, why are you sugarcoating your words?
Did she do that to you too?
But it was required. And I'm saying that because of the corporate drama. Nikisha told me that I was speaking like I was in a meeting. And she also told me that I kept saying with these scenarios that I was writing about, at the end of the scenarios, I would say things like, but it's okay. I got this, it's okay. And your words, Nikisha, were, it's not okay. If you are going to write this book about what really happened and stop talking like you are in a meeting. And then after that, did you have that problem with me after that?
No, I think I told you go have a glass of wine and then start writing.
That's all you had to do. Look, tell me something about alcohol and I'm there. But listen, that's the whole point of it. And I didn't even realize, and I tell people the story to this day, I didn't even realize how much I had been washed by corporate because of the way that I had to assimilate, that it even came out in the way that I was writing my own book. How in the world can I write my own story and still be washed? So the corporate drama, the trauma is real. I'll tell anybody, I have corporate PTSD, literally, because when I go into situations like I just recently had, recently had a job switch for responsibilities. The first thing I thought was, well, what the hell did I do wrong? But it was actually a good thing, but I had to reconcile with the fact that somebody in the organization would say, we're giving you something different. I thought it was more of a punishment than an opportunity. And that is because everything that I had experienced wasn't necessarily something that was revered as being great. It was more, oh, we need to push off to the side or just give her something to do. So it's really kind of reconciling with the trauma of being a Black woman in corporate America and understanding that those feelings are real, embracing those feelings and understanding that when you assimilate doesn't mean you necessarily have to change. But I didn't even realize that I'd been doing it for so long. It had become a part of who I was, but I knew I was experiencing all these things. But until you opened my eyes that day, I know exactly where I was sitting. I almost remember exactly what I had on because it was like a light bulb. Why are you saying these things when this is your story? And I want people who are in this group to really understand that you're not the only one. The things that you're dealing with are real, but you have to reconcile with why those things are happening and not internalize it as something that you're doing wrong, understanding that it's the situation you've been given, but then use those things as opportunities and not internalize them as something that you've done wrong just by showing up as who you are.
All right. I want to remind the audience that if anyone has any questions, drop them in the Q&A section or in the chat. I do have both open so that we can get some of your questions in about 8 minutes. But back to the interview, and recognizing the corporate trauma that you've been through, and then both of you realizing that you want to bring more people in, more women, more people of color, more Black men, all of that. You know, what do you tell them to help them prepare for some of the experiences that you have had that are going to be inevitable, and how to navigate them, but also so that they don't have to deal with that BS in the first place? Angel, go ahead.
Yeah. What I've learned now that I did not know then is how absolutely essential and critical it is for self-care. And I'm still on my own personal journey with that. I got to do much better. But, you know, have my mentality, which I was taught, was keep going, just keep going. So when something bad happens, if somebody, if you have a microaggression in a meeting, someone belittles you or takes your idea, whatever the case was, you swallow that and you keep going and you keep plowing through and you show up the next day, right? Shake it off. And I was just stuffing it and stuffing it and stuffing it. It was as if I was drowning myself. And so the everyday sitting back and undrowning yourself, unpacking that emotional issue that happened is critical. And getting better, of course, is standing up for yourself, right? Calling a spade, calling people out. I actually enjoy it now when I'm on a Zoom call. And I'm like, excuse me, I'm sorry, did you just overtalk, you know, such and such, or, you know, calling them out. It's kind of a little fun thing now. But getting comfortable and confident in that. But the emotional and health perspective, right? The exercising, yoga, taking care of yourself, that was spotlighted during COVID for me and many others. And I just realized how critical it was. So I tell folks, especially the emerging leaders that are coming behind me, don't, as what Monica said, don't take that in, don't internalize that, get rid of that. You have to come up with your own plan to figure out how to get rid of that. Yoga, counseling, a coach, a mentor, family member, whatever, but mentally, emotionally, you have to take care of yourself. We have a long way to go to get to the C-suite. And so I need everybody healthy.
Monica, what do you tell your young mentees?
I tell them the truth. I tell them this is who you are. This is what you look like when you walk in. These are the things that you are going to hear. And when I say those things, I say it so they can hear it from someone who's already heard it, so that when they hear it, it removes some of the shock. Mm-hmm. And it also prepares them mentally to say, okay, Monica already told me this. This is the response that I need to have. Because one thing that I've noticed from mentoring, especially us women, Black women, is that we really want to be able to check a box and say, okay, I did this training, I did this, I did this, I did this. And now, dun, da, 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 I am an executive. No, ma'am, that's not how it works.
Oh, well, okay.
That's not how it works. Because you have to prepare them for the emotional aspect of it. And then Angel's talking about, self-care, but I'm talking about being able to quickly hear, reconcile, and then respond. Because your response is going to solidify your place in the room, or it's going to kick you out. Because we're already perceived as angry Black women, whether we come in with a smile or not. So we have to make sure that we understand what's happening to us in the moment, understand what's being said, why it's being said, and in a matter of seconds, being able to respond in a way that's going to be more welcomed, if you will, than shunned. Because now you have to understand this is a game, and you have to position yourself very well in that game to be accepted, quote unquote, into the room. So what I tell the people that I mentor is I tell them the truth. This is probably what you're going to hear. Or when they bring situations to me, I say, this is why that was said. This is what you need to understand about this situation. And here is how you go to work tomorrow. These are the things you do to make sure you consistently solidify your place in the room or keep yourself on that path. Because we can have a tendency to say, well, you know, this was said to me and I'm being ostracized because I'm a Black woman, blah, blah, blah. Yes, that's right. But what are you going to do about it? And how are you going to manage that? So if you don't learn how to manage the emotional side of it and manage your presence and your response in those moments, then you will quickly be put in a category where you won't get promoted, you won't get considered, and you won't even get, you know, invited to these conversations. And we're already there. So why would you continue to keep yourself there when we've already been put there without any effort? You're just gonna make it even worse. Understand how to deal with that. So I tell folks the truth. When you walk in, this is who you are, this is what they think, this is how you manage in that moment, and then help shape the way they think versus trying to just, you know, put them in a place where they just try to figure out what's going on. I really try to help them reconcile with the thought process of who they are and what's happening to them.
Okay. Let's go to the questions from the audience. Donna Bowman has a question for you, Monica. She says, you indicated that you had to assimilate in your environment, but I'm curious if you were still able to be your authentic self at work every day.
Ooh, girl, who is that? What's her name? We need to connect on LinkedIn. That is a great question because it was a problem. And I didn't understand how to do that. I was trying to be this other person and not bring my authentic self to the table because I didn't think that the real Monica was welcomed. You know what I'm saying? The way they say things to you, it makes you feel like your authentic self is not invited to the table. You have to assimilate and take on certain characteristics to be able to do that. So I actually, Linda Clement Holmes, if y'all don't know who that is, she's a part of ITSMF, but she was also the CIO of Procter & Gamble for a while. She's probably about 5'1", 5'2", 5'3". She has a buzz cut and she wears Converse everywhere she goes. And she is her authentic self. I asked her the question about that very thing. And she told me to figure out the people around you in your job or even outside, and then use that circle of trust to help you manage who you are in those walls. They're going to tell you the truth. Everybody around you is not going to tell you the truth. When you get in these executive roles, you need to hire somebody that's really going to have your back. But when you are in that situation where you're battling with your authentic self, you need to find a way to assimilate, but also add aspects of yourself into that, and then have people you can trust so that when you have those moments, you can go off and talk to them, whether they work for the company or not. But it's a dynamic that you have to manage. And it's something that I struggled with for a long time. The great thing about it is they get all of me right now. So if they don't like it, guess what? Tough.
Keisha, I've got the best response to that one too. So I keep it. There's a folder. I have at least 4 to 5 year performance reviews. And in each one of those performance reviews, it says in some way, shape, or form, Angel is passionate. And so I got to another company, I was pitching an idea, and the only feedback that I got is, oh, well, she sure is passionate about that. And they were saying it in a negative way, right? And that was the catalyst for me to say, I'm going to own that. Okay, fine. So then I show up and I'm passionate about every dang on thing, right? We can talk about agile, we can talk about IT processes, and I'm finding that, people are attracted to that. They gravitate to that. Oh, wow, she really believes in this idea or this process. Let me listen. And so once I was able to step into that and own that passion label, that's not a negative thing. No, I'm passionate. I care about what it is that I'm saying and what I believe in, and I'm going to share that with you. And if that is off-putting to you, back to what Monica said, I need you to go reconcile that with your counselor.
Well then, next question. It's from Danielle Thomas. And Andrew, go ahead first on this one. She said, how did you discern who your actual sponsors were, or was it someone you knew outright?
Sponsorship. Okay. So this is that individual who is a mythical being that many of us don't even know who they are, unfortunately. So oftentimes, too often, everybody, white men and women too, they don't know who their sponsor is. They don't know who recommended them for the promotion or the stretch opportunity or the bonus pay or whatever. Oftentimes they don't know we don't know who our sponsors are. But now that we are educating ourselves and we've used that term, now you can go out and seek and be intentional about getting sponsorship. But you know who the sponsor is based on the tangible, actionable steps that they have done to support you in your career. So this is the individual that says, hey, there's a new opportunity that's happening over there in a different business unit. I think you would be great for that. That is your sponsor. I'm going to go recommend you. Then we have, I just want to, I want to see if you're interested. Okay, great. So the next meeting that we have, I'm going to throw your name in the hat. That individual is your sponsor. And I please don't ever make the mistake of treating your sponsor like a mentor. Make sure that this person knows only the good about you. Make sure that they know what your goals and objectives are. But when you mess up, when you need a shoulder to cry on, that's what your family, friends, or your mentor is for. This person is all about Angel's trying to get to the C-suite, and this is her background, and this is what she knows, and this is what she's about, and I am going to make it my mission to help her get there. That's the sponsor. And they're not going to look like you, by the way, because if I waited for a sponsor that has 2.2 kids, a husband, graduated from the University of Pittsburgh, and is in IT, I'll be waiting. So my sponsors have historically been older white men.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Monica.
From my perspective, you don't choose sponsors, sponsors choose you. I'm not, if anybody comes and asks me to be a sponsor, to me, that's a red flag. I don't put my brand and my name on just anyone. I select who I want to sponsor. And I select the people that I sponsor based on the characteristics and the work ethic that they've already displayed. I select people based on their trustworthiness with how they govern themselves. So from my perspective, sponsors aren't sought out. They're a gift, and you acquire them through your work ethic and your ability to show who you are. So yeah, I don't respond to being asked to be a sponsor. I choose that. That is something that's my choice. And I don't put my brand and my name on everyone. So once I do that, just understand it's something that doesn't come very easy to most people.
All right, we got 2 more questions in 10 minutes. I'm gonna try to get through them. Christina asks, how can you obtain feedback in a way that you can be effective in the boardroom? Monica, go ahead.
Who are these people asking these questions, girl? How can you obtain feedback? So I proactively solicited feedback, good, bad, ugly. And I made it a point to ask before it was offered. I didn't wait for my performance review. I would actually literally pull people aside and say, okay, what are your thoughts? Can you give me some feedback? Was there something else that I could do? And feedback is a gift. You have to be open to it. And the other thing about feedback is you also have the ability to discern which feedback was given to you to lift you up and which feedback was given to you to tear you down. And you have to understand who's delivering that message and why that message is being delivered to you, because all feedback is not something that you need to accept. And if you graciously say thank you and walk away, it doesn't mean that you've accepted everything that everybody has told you. So just be aware that feedback is a gift. I actually encourage people to proactively ask for feedback, but then also once you get the feedback from certain people, just understand whether it's coming from a place of endearment or a place of malice, because sometimes people say things just to try to bring you down for their own personal gain for whatever reason. So just try to be conscious of that.
Angel.
I interviewed a guy, Jeffrey Holter Tobias, and I asked him about the feedback question. And he said, Angel, I'm gonna be honest with you. He was like, white men are absolutely scared to give women, and particularly Black women, feedback. He said, we're not good at it and we're not comfortable with it. So it puts the onus on us, again, back to you have to own your own career development and trajectory. So it puts the onus on us to get creative. And so that's where a great coach and mentor comes into play, where they're going to help you tailor to your supervisor, to your individual supervisor and their comfortability level, what questions you need to ask them. So I often got the feedback of, you did great. Oh yeah, that presentation was great. The idea was great. Oh, the pitch was great. Okay, well, what was great about it? And I wasn't getting anywhere. So I just tweaked it a little bit to say, oh, I'm so glad that you enjoyed it. I have a question. What would make it just 10% better in your eyes? And then that's when they start to come out. So it's not saying that it's right, but I'm all about, I got to get mine. So if I want to get my feedback, I'm going to have to figure out a way to make you comfortable with giving it to me. And that might just be open and honest to say, hey, look, you know what? I know constructive feedback is hard and all that good stuff. But I'm open to it. I'm really interested in about, what your thoughts are and how we can co-create and make this better. So use all the terms that they like, whatever, make them comfortable. Again, it's not ideal, but you got to do what you got to do to get the truth.
All right. Our next question says, when was the awakening moment for you ladies to overcome corporate trauma? Who would like to take that on?
Well, both of our expressions are the same. That question sent us to a place. I will say the moment I realized I needed to figure out how to deal with corporate trauma is the morning that I was driving to work in tears. I was literally driving to work in tears. And the tears were personal situations. It was dealing with work, trying to deal with the stress of having a boss that was just ridiculously asking for things that just didn't make any sense, feeling that I was being targeted. And then having that also coincide with some very significant personal situations. That's when I realized I needed to do something different. When you get to the point where it moves you to an emotional state of hysteria and deep reflection of, why you are the way you are, or what did you do wrong to deserve these things, then it becomes a situation where you have to take a step back and figure out what you need to do to resurrect yourself into a place of being able to truly own who you are and again, bask in the greatness. The situation at work was the trigger that made me start crying while I'm physically driving in Atlanta traffic. If anybody lives in Atlanta, y'all already know it's rough out here in these streets. You got to be focused. And I was bawling in tears, and I had to sit in the parking lot for about 15 minutes to gather myself up, wipe my tears, and say, okay, Monica, you can do this. I had to do that myself. From that moment on, it was a game changer, because I was like, there will never be another situation in the workplace that will trigger me to hysteria and tears while I'm driving up to my place of business. If anything is that traumatic, then I need to get out. Point blank, I need to find something else.
Yeah. I'll be honest. I'll say this for myself too. We as Black women tend to stay too long in toxic situations and environments and relationships. And, as you read in my book, I do liken a work relationship to a personal relationship. And there have been personal relationships and boyfriends, whatever, that I had that I just stayed way too long. There have been organizations and teams and departments where I just stayed way too long trying to make it work. And I no longer am I held hostage to that. I no longer have those golden handcuffs. But I would say the moment, the catalyst for me was when I was driven to my knees, where I was depressed, very depressed, right? Felt like it was a black hole. I wasn't good enough. I wasn't smart enough, all the negative self-talk. When I got that low, all I could do was pray, and it was my faith that brought me through. And so I now know that if that were to ever happen again, I now know to immediately go to prayer And I know the Lord will see me through and create a way out, because he does not want his daughter, he does not want us glorious queens sitting in toxic environments where our value is not being realized.
Hallelujah. Donna says she is shouting on the other side of her monitor. For my final question for you ladies before we go, we've got 3 minutes left. It is, this panel is called, Corporate America through the lens of a Black woman. What do you want people to know about what corporate America looks like from your point of view, Angel?
Ooh, where do I begin with that one? From my point of view, oh my, well, how truthful. Okay, well, I will say this. I do believe, and this is probably just coming from the environment that I'm working in right now, I do see small shifts and changes, right? I do see that. I do see intentionality from allies or those that want to be active allies, where they're calling out the injustices, they're calling out the inequalities. I will say this real quick. I love this story. So our organization had launched a diversity, equity, and inclusion page. And on that page, there were a lot of people represented. There was no brown and Black face. Okay. Clearly an oversight, I'm going to say. But it wasn't me that called it out. It wasn't our DE&I officer called it out. It wasn't anybody in HR that called it out. It was a little white lady that said, this doesn't look right. This does not represent our organization accurately. We have to change this website. And immediately it was updated the next day. There was no, steering committee. There was no, we got to get the CEO to approve it. All of that rigmarole and red tape that would have happened in the past. It was, oh my God, yes, an immediate change happened. And we're seeing that over and over again, right? Where the candidate pool is not diverse enough. Okay, we have to, Angel, can you tap into your network and get this job posting out so we can get more women and women of color in? So I do see small shifts changing. It's not as quickly as I would like, but it is happening.
All right, I know Deja's come back on to tell us that we've got to go. We're over time. Monica, can you answer this really quickly?
I sure can. I want everybody from this panel to know that you belong, period. That our Blackness and our womanness, and I know that's not a word, but I'm going to use it, is required in the corporate environment. The diverse perspectives are needed and necessary. So you don't let anybody tell you different. You don't let anybody try to make you think different. You don't try to let anybody make you feel different. Those emotions are not accepted. You're a badass, you belong, you're just as smart as everybody else in that room, and they need to understand that when you walk through the door.
Thank you so much, ladies. Ray Gonzalez, I know we didn't get to your question that you had for Angel. I promise you she answered it in her book, Dents in the Ceiling, Tools Women and Allies Need to Break Through, as well as Monica and Brown's book, Only One, How to Be a Badass Boss in Corporate America. I have both. I've read both. You all should get them all, and I will turn it back over to Deja. Thank you, Angel and Monica, for being here. Thank you for having me, and thank you to BDPA.
Thank you, ladies, so much. I'm just giving, if I could give y'all 5 rounds of applause each, I definitely would. This was literally so amazing, so impactful, especially as a young Black woman and, ascending the ranks in the corporate America. It meant a lot to me when I saw this panel. I said, yeah, I'm gonna be the producer of that one, period. You don't gotta worry about anything. So grateful for you all, for your time, for your candid opinions and experiences, for really being authentic and sharing those with us. So BDPA, of course, thanks you all so much. Thank you, everybody in the audience. Just as we wrap up, I did want to let everybody know what's coming next for tonight. So for any college students in the room, Eli Lilly and Company is hosting a symposium, and that is going to be starting at 6 p.m. and going for about an hour and a half. And then for any of our professionals who are here, we will be having game night. So don't get your Black card revoked. Come have some fun with us tonight. And if not, we will definitely see you all bright and early for our opening keynote. We Lead at the intersection of identity, equality, and unity tomorrow, bright and early at 8 a.m. So thank you all so much. If you haven't gotten their books yet, get their books, because why not? Like, you just heard them and you could just read everything that they were saying and more. So definitely check out their books, and I hope everybody has a great rest of your day and a great rest of the conference. Thank you, ladies, so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, all.
Bye, guys.